Welcome to our video on how to teach properties of 3D objects. We are all familiar with the teaching of 2D shapes. We now need to consider ways of teaching 3D objects. Explain to learners that 3D means three-dimensional. For example, the square becomes a cube, the rectangle becomes a cuboid, and the triangle becomes a pyramid. When teaching 2D and 3D shapes or objects or any other maths concept, you should remember to follow the principles of teaching. This means that you should begin with simple problems so that children can build their confidence and only then move to the difficult, complex problems. Begin with what children know and only then move to teaching the unknown content. Begin with concrete examples and only afterwards move to teaching abstract content. And then, of course, give children chance to practice doing 3D shapes problems. When applying these principles to the teaching of 3D objects, you could start with a simple one-dimensional object and then move to more complex objects. For example, explain to your learners that the line segment drawn on a surface is a one-dimensional object or 1D and that it has length only. Now show learners how we can extend the line with exactly the same length to the right so that it becomes a two-dimensional square or 2D which has length and width. Should we move or extend the 2D square perpendicular to its surface, it becomes a three-dimensional cube or 3D, which has length, width, and height. Explain to your learners that dimension in mathematics is the measurement of the length, width, and height of anything. Now make time to teach your learners the vocabulary used when working with 3D objects. This includes the terminology when describing aspects such as faces, corners, edges, vertex, and vertices. A face refers to the surface of a 3D object. A corner where three faces meet is called a vertex or vertices in the plural form, and the line where the two faces meet is called an edge. The next teaching principle to remember to apply is to make use of concrete apparatus or examples before moving on to abstract examples. In order to explain the characteristics of 3D shapes, you can, for example, provide your learners with a variety of common 3D objects such as cones, cubes, cylinders, spheres, and prisms. Let them observe and physically handle these objects. Once learners have investigated everyday 3D objects, they will know that these have length, width, and height. The learners should also have developed basic vocabulary. You should now start introducing them to the names of 3D objects. Learners must be able to recognize, visualize, and name 3D objects in the environment and geometric settings. Keep on emphasizing that 3D objects are formed by 2D shapes. Make use of worksheets similar to the one on the screen. Let the learners identify everyday objects, which are the known, that can be represented by the 3D objects listed in the worksheet. Learners must first name the everyday object. Second, identify the 2D shape that can be made from these objects. And third, learn the name of the 3D object. Now you should teach your learners that 3D objects are distinguished according to their surfaces. Prisms and pyramids have flat surfaces. Cones and cylinders have a combination of curved and flat surfaces. The final teaching principle to apply in any mathematics lesson is practice. Practice can involve making use of concrete examples or worksheets. Learners must be able to describe, sort and compare 3D objects in terms of shape of faces, number of faces, flat and curved faces. Ask your learners to each bring an object from home which resembles a geometric 3D shape. Let the learners study these objects and their attributes in terms of number of faces, edges and vertices. They can record their answers in a table similar to the one shown on the screen. Ensure that learners know the vocabulary and description of 3D objects. For example, a cube has 6 faces, 12 edges and 8 vertices. Each face of a cube is a square, all of its edges are the same length. A cuboid has 6 faces, 12 edges and 8 vertices. Each face is a rectangle. It is also known as a rectangular prism. A sphere has 1 curved surface, 0 faces, 0 edges and 0 vertices. A sphere is a 3D circle. A cylinder has 2 flat faces, 1 curved surface, 2 circular edges and no vertices. The top and bottom faces are flat and circular. A curved surface wraps around the outside of the 2 faces. A square-based pyramid contains 5 faces, 8 edges and 5 vertices. The bottom face is a square and there are also 4 more triangular faces around the side of the shape. There are 4 vertices around the square base plus 1 more on the tip of the pyramid. A cone contains 1 flat circular face, 1 curved surface, 1 circular edge and 1 vertex. The vertex is formed from the curved surface and it is directly above the center of the circular base. Review the topic by reminding the learners that 3D means 3-dimensional. 3-dimensional shapes can be picked up and held because they have length, width and depth. The properties of a 3D shape are the number of faces, edges and vertices that it has. Faces are the surfaces on the outside of a shape. The edges are the lines where 2 faces meet. Vertices or corners are where 2 or more edges meet. We have reached the end of our discussion on the teaching of 3D objects or shapes and have almost reached the end of Workshop 3. You are reminded to complete the quiz on 3D objects before moving to the final video where we will recap the different aspects of this workshop.